Welcome back, mamas. Y'all, today we are going to talk about creating peace, that peace that we want so much, that peace that we may believe only can come after the chaos ends. I'm here to tell you that you can create that peace even within the chaos. So let's get to it.
Do you wish you had control of your days, that you had a rhythm, but instead feel overwhelmed, scattered, and like there's never enough time? You're in the right place. I'm Danielle, a recovering workaholic, wife, and stay-at-home mom of 2 girls. I've learned how to reclaim my time and find purpose and freedom so I can be present with my kids and feel like myself again. Here, we embrace where we are, but we don't stay there. So if you're ready to trade the chaos for clarity, the guilt for grace, and the endless to-do list for aligned flow, grab the kiddos a snack and toss in that laundry because I know you're multitasking, and let's do this because your time, your purpose, and you matter.
Okay, mamas. So we talk a lot about peace on this podcast. We want this peace in our lives. We want our lives to feel less chaotic, right? Like we want to be less overwhelmed. We want to be more fulfilled. We want this peace that comes from knowing things that we might not feel like we know right now, right? We might not feel like we can see the light at the end of the tunnel of the chaos, right? Like when is this chaos going to end and I can feel this peace? Well, I am here to tell you today 3 steps that you can kind of take to create this peace even within the chaos. You can create it for yourself. So I'm going to start us off with a quote here. This one is from Louise Hay that says, "When we create peace and harmony and balance in our minds, we will find it in our lives." When we create this peace and harmony and balance in our minds, we will find it in our lives. So how can we create this peace and harmony and, I hate the word balance, right? But this alignment in our minds so that we can experience this peace and it will trickle down into our lives, right? Not the other way around. So I believe that we can kind of create this peace in 3 steps, if you will. So the first one is to create these like micro rhythms, these little things that you can do throughout your day that are going to make you feel grounded, that are going to remind you what's important to you, that are going to bring you back to center, so to speak. And then you can remind yourself and decide what actually does matter, right? What does matter? I am going to be reminded of this clarity, right, that I have gotten by doing a lot of the work that we talk about, and I'm going to prepare myself for peace. So I am going to set my day up in such a way that I will be able to experience peace throughout my day. Okay, so what does this look like? Well, the first thing that you can do is just to create these like micro rhythms, these anchor points, these different places throughout your day where you can be brought back to center, where you can be reminded. So we have talked so many times about that clarity, that, what is important to you and why. And hopefully, if you haven't done the core value work, that is one thing I would highly recommend that you do is to uncover those core values. What are the things that are most important to you? I know I take those and I put them on my phone and I set an alarm for a couple of times a day that will just bring me back to grounded. So if I know that like mid-morning is my crazy time of day, or sometimes where I feel like things are maybe starting to go crazy in the morning, I'll set an alarm. And this is like a daily alarm. Like it's an alarm that goes off on my phone every single day, that when it comes up, when that alarm goes off, it says my 5 core values. And I can look at that and I can say, okay, am I living in alignment with those 5 core values? Now, if you have not done the work, this is not something that you would be able to do, but maybe you could set your alarm to ground you with an affirmation or a Bible verse or something that's going to remind you who you are, what's important to you. And, when this alarm goes off on my phone, I immediately do like a gut check of, do I feel like I'm living in alignment with those core values, right? And so if this is an alarm that goes off on your phone to remind you like an affirmation, maybe something that you're working towards, something that you want your life to look like you could say something that you choose to focus on, something that you're choosing to create. Another thing that you could do is, in the morning, a lot of us have morning routines that involve, maybe like coffee or something like that, things that you do in the morning to get you going. One of the things that I would love to challenge you to do is something for yourself. Now, if you're getting woken up by children, right, and you're not like waking up by an alarm clock or on your own or whatnot, you're getting woken up versus deciding when you want to wake up, then this might be a little harder to do right off the bat, but I bet you can fit it in at some point. Just 2 minutes. For me, it started out when I was really busy with this Bible app. It's called the Bible app. And I would open it up and it has a verse of the day and it walks you through, like on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, when you walk through stories, it gives you like a little story of the Bible verse. And then it goes into, there's usually like a 1 to 2 minute little excerpt that somebody's done on the Bible verse. It kind of solidifies the Bible verse. And then there'll be like a little paragraph after that. It literally takes maybe 3 minutes, possibly 5 minutes on a long day, right? And that you can just kind of get grounded, just kind of start your day with, the word of God and good news, inspiration, as opposed to starting your day like with the news or, with Facebook or something like that. Starting your day creating that peace as opposed to the chaos, right? Because when you go onto social media, or when you go onto the news or whatever, you're going to not be creating peace, right? Like it's typically not a peaceful place. Like it's typically a place that might stir up some emotions or might just get your brain going in a direction that you don't want it to go on, or might have you going down a rabbit hole, or might have you wanting to go online shop, or, all of these different things that can happen that will take you off of the course of what you actually want in your day, right? So we are going to try to create a routine that actually brings you what you do want, which is less of this chaos and more of this peace, right? Something else you can do first thing in the morning is just ask yourself the question, what would make today feel like a success, right? Like if you have heard me talk about planning or anything like that, I always talk about my top 3 for the day. Like I always put 3 priorities down for my day. But even if you didn't want to put 3 priorities or didn't know what your 3 priorities were, you could ask yourself the question of, in order for today to be successful, like when I get to the end of the day, either how would I want to feel or what would I have accomplished, right? If it's something that you have accomplished, then you want to make sure that you set an intention that you are going to accomplish that, right? Because a lot of times we know what we need to get done, but if we don't remind ourselves in the morning, okay, this is my intention for the day. Today would look like a success if, and then insert that if, right? Now that if can be something tangible, but it doesn't have to be. And I would also encourage you to kind of like set this as your intention for the day. Like my intention for the day is to, and if you don't have a lot going on that day, maybe it's literally to create a fun experience for myself and the kids, right? Maybe it is to enjoy such and such. Maybe it is to be present in a certain moment, right? But maybe it is to get something specific done. Like if you're saying it would be to go to the grocery and have your meals planned out for your week, right? Then you want to do that first thing, right? Like that's the first thing you want to tackle. If that's going to make your day successful, then you want to make sure you get it done. So you don't want to start your day off doing something else or having it take you off track. If that specific thing is going to make your day and possibly your week, right, successful, then you want to make sure that you get it done early and you're going to plan for that, right? But taking that time to get grounded in that in the morning could save you a lot of stress because you might know that you have to meal plan and go to the grocery, but if you're not thinking of it like, what would make my day successful, and that is what it would be, then you might put that off until later in the day and you might feel rushed and chaotic, and maybe you don't get the whole meal plan done and you have to go to the grocery without having done it. And all of these things could happen. But if you start the day off and you're like, okay, today would be successful if I got my meal plan done and I got to the grocery, then you're going to know, okay, that's what I have to do first, right? Like that, I can maybe feed the kids and, do a little bit of like downtime or whatever, but like we are getting to the grocery before lunch. If that is possible, then that is how it's got to go so that your day feels successful. And that immediately kind of lifts this pressure that you might have, or this anxiety that you don't know when that's going to get done, right? It immediately just is like, okay, I know if I do this, I'm going to feel successful for today. And if you make it something more emotional or whatever, then you are able to check in with yourself throughout the day and think, okay, am I creating an environment where I feel like that is, productive, or where I am fueling that thing that I said was important to me this morning, and how I was going to view my day as successful. So you can check in with yourself throughout the day and kind of remind yourself, hey, am I doing that, right? When you have set that intention in the morning. But when you didn't take the time to set it in the morning, then you don't really know what success looks like or doesn't look like, right? But I really do believe that our battle starts half of the time in our minds, that this is a mental thing that makes us feel peaceful. It is not necessarily that we need less chaos in our lives. It's that we need more peace, and we need moments that bring us peace, and we need to create these little things throughout our day that bring us back to peace. One of the other things I love to do is and I mentioned a little bit earlier, was to do my affirmations. In the morning when I'm brushing my teeth, I will say my affirmations to myself as I brush my teeth, so that I'm reminding myself of all the things that I want to be working on, so that I remind myself of all the ways that I want to live my life. And, throughout your day, you can create these little, the alarm on your phone, before you go to bed. I love the gratitude, like thinking about things that are making you grateful throughout the day. As I've talked about before, when you do those things, when you start to do a gratitude practice at night, then you start to recognize throughout the day more things that you're thankful for. It's like this circle or this cycle that you create in your mind where you're always looking for things to be grateful for, versus what our brains do a lot of times, which is go to the negative as opposed to the positive. You're always going to get what you're looking for, right? You're always going to get what you're thinking about. And so when we're thinking about positive things, and we're thinking about what we want our life to be, and when we're thinking about these things that we want in our life versus these things that we don't want in our life, or the way that we don't want things to go, right? Because when we talk about or think about things that are chaotic, are just, talking more about our stress and our overwhelm, and, how things are never going to be able to be planned, or, we're too busy for this or that or the other thing. This creates more stress, more busyness, more things that we don't want, because we get what we think about. And when we think about those things, it's going to perpetuate more of them in our lives. So let's think about what we do want as opposed to what we don't want, and to create these little micro rhythms, these little micro routines that we can do throughout our day. A lot of mine were in the morning and are still in the morning, because I feel like that was the most stressful time for me, or the most time when I needed the reminder. But I have alarms set in my phone throughout the day to remind me of my core values. And I used to have them in there to remind me of all kinds of things. I mean, you could have a reminder in there for you to just take a minute and breathe, right? Like you can take, no matter what, you can always find a minute, right? To excuse yourself. I know when we go to the bathroom, like you might have a little one on your leg or whatever, but you can find a minute to breathe, right? To really sit there and think about, okay, what it is that I want in my life is this, and just breathe into that. Peace does not have to be about being in control, right? Like we are never in control of all of our circumstances, right? Or in everything in our life. And we might feel a little bit out of control of how our days go, and everything can't be planned because there's a lot of unpredictables in mom life, right? But we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to be in control to plan for peace, to be intentional about certain things in our days that will bring us back to a peaceful place. You can create little micro things that you do in your days that will bring you there. I want to end with one last quote from Maya Angelou that says, "A woman in harmony with her spirit is like a river flowing. She goes where she will without pretense and arrives at her destination prepared to be herself and only herself." And so I love that because I love Maya Angelou, right? And I do believe that when you are in harmony with your spirit, like when you are in knowing what you want, when you are bringing that into your life, then you are like a river, you're flowing, you're in aligned flow. That's what I love to call it, right? Like this is the work that we do in my coaching. It's exactly what we work on, is how we figure out what is important to us and why, and what we can take on at this moment. And we prioritize everything that's going on in our life and figure out how we navigate from where we are to where we want to go in a way that is in harmony with everything that we want in our life, everything that's important to us. And we know exactly what that is. And we know that is what I want to call as our true north. And we know that we're on a path there. And we might not be on a straight path, right? Because mom life be crazy, but we are on a path and we are working in aligned flow. We are in alignment with our values, and we can create this peace in our lives in a very simple way, even when our lives feel chaotic. Okay. I want that so much for you. So go to prioritizewithpurpose.com, prioritizewithpurpose.com, sign up for a prioritization clarity call where we will get clear on what your next steps are to getting you to this place that you want to be. Okay. And I will see you right back here next week.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode, Mama. If so, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and then hit share and send this to a mom who needs this in her day. I'll meet you right back here next week. Keep smiling, y'all.